Hey everyone, John here with an exciting person who is running for the male delegate of the DNC. And let us start by introducing Bob.
Good, yeah. I'm Bob Colt, and I have been on the Democratic State Committee for some 28 years and very involved in that. The Democratic Party, besides my family, is, right to the core. I have been some 21 years as chair of the Bylaws Committee, 21 years serving on the Executive Committee. So I've been involved in everything, but I get involved in the Youth Services Committee, bringing young people into the party and to the Democratic State Committee. And I have been on outreach, action agenda, rules, charter, so the whole bit. I really involve myself completely. I would like to be, though, on the Democratic National Committee, because that's where a lot of the new action will be. We'll talk on that a little bit.
Now, you told me that you used to do a cable access show.
Right. Yeah.
So we're a little bit different with the technology, but it's the same theory. Now, you had some pretty exciting guests on that.
Yeah, no, I had a show for 16 years called The Bob Colt Show, and it was great. We built up from the Martha Coakleys and Steve Grossmans and Joe DiNucci's to the Congressman Kennedy at the time, the older one, the father of the present congressman. And I had Ted Kennedy on twice, the U.S. Senator. So he was an amazing interview, as most of them were. I really enjoyed talking with him. The first time it was the morning after the Iowa caucuses, and so
he must have been pumped.
Right. So we talked on that for a while, and then I made almost the mistake, but it was great, of asking him what his priorities were for the next legislative session. And about 7 minutes later, when he had touched on every national issue and how he was going to address health care and hunger and everything else, I realized that, he can do a monologue, but he's a very special man.
We had him... you're good friends with Phil Johnston.
Yeah, we were good friends. Yeah.
We had him, Senator Kennedy, down for when Phil retired, and it was really an incredible thing. He retired from the state party, and Ted Kennedy came down, and he had a big dollar donation fundraiser, and then he comes down and spends time with this small, I think we're $20 a plate, maybe 100 activists who were big supporters of Ted. And it was exactly what you said. He had his speech. He did his speech, and he gets about maybe 15 minutes in his speech, and he goes, "You know what? This is boring. I'm just going to talk to you guys." Yeah. And he starts talking all the issues. Just an amazing candidate. Now, you've had the opportunity to interview his nephew, too, right?
Right, yeah. So that, Joe Kennedy, the senior congressman, who was congressman living out of Cambridge and Brighton and so forth. He was a guy I really got to know. I'd go to family picnics that he would run. I knew his sister very well, and I would bring him in for literally 10 shows over the years. And I think some of it, he would like it because he would be going on Meet the Press or some great, national show. And, to get to talk about those issues was really special for him too. Wow. So that was a lot of fun.
And now you've got a third generation at this point of Kennedys that you've actually interviewed on.
Right. Yeah. So I like obviously Joe, and someday he may be U.S. Senator. Or
we'll see. Right. Pretty exciting. We have. That's one of the things that I think is pretty exciting about being a Massachusetts Democrat. We have a seriously good backbench of young Democrats coming up. So talk more about your life in the party.
Right, yeah. So first of all, after graduating from Boston University as a government major, I started campaigning for people I like.
What was the first campaign?
Well, I did a lot of local ones. Right, right. Senator Sal.
That's where you always start, right?
Yeah, the state senator, and we won, and I would play golf with him and really get to know him. I got to know Michael Dukakis fairly well,
Right,
so
right.
I'd work on all his campaigns, and politics was a real joy. I at different times said, how can I become more involved? I really want to talk on issues. I really want to be someone that's in the mix of things. So I decided that I was going to run for the Democratic State Committee.
So you started with the grassroots, got involved with local campaigns.
Right. And then, one of the state senators said, hey, Bob, you're good at this. You're my friend. What do you think about taking on an incumbent in a caucus?
Oh, wow.
And, so that, as people that know the structure, is a big deal.
So you had a caucus fight. That's
right. So it was
tough.
a caucus fight that I had to go up against a guy who is now, a state rep, but at the time was a very popular city councilor.
Right.
And he was strong, and he basically, went into it with 60 votes or so.
Oh, wow.
And
Now, what was the district?
So the district was Somerville, Medford, and
Oh, now that's
Winchester.
hardcore. That's some hardcore
Right.
politics.
So I mean, that's against a real strong Medford candidate, and so I would make phone calls every day from about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, usually 5 o'clock when I'd finish work at
Right.
the Attorney General's office, and I would talk with people till 9 o'clock at night and go to all the events, and then caucus day came. To make a long story short. And I pulled in a whole lot of progressives, a whole lot of good issues people, and shocked this city councilor, and that I beat him handily. So that's how I got on the state committee as a caucus seat. And later on, after a number of years there, and even going through one. I decided to run for the ballot seat, where it was the whole district.
Right, so you got the entire
presidential primary. So I got into it. I threw a fundraiser. I instantly got $8,000 for a little fundraiser, and I was great. And I was doing, standouts. I was doing everything.
Visibilities and all the like.
And here is the crazy part. In one standout in one year, I had this guy come up to me on the street, and I was holding a sign, and he started talking to me about every issue on the national level.
Oh, it's happened to all of us.
And he was boom, boom, boom. And he, I said, I want to get your name. And he said Barack. It was Barack Obama.
Are you kidding?
Who was in law school
at
Harvard and living in Somerville on Broadway. So, that was the strangest person you're ever going to meet. And he was so brilliant even then.
And, of course, he's got such a unique name that you're
right,
going to remember the name.
Remember Barack. And you'd say, oh, I never heard that name before.
So I got to meet, the first time I met Barack Obama he was the senator from Illinois.
Right.
And he came for Deval Patrick's fundraiser. I'm sure you remember that. Right. And I was big involved, like you, with Deval. Right. And Deval came out of the staging area with Barack Obama.
Right.
And I happened to be standing there with my first grade teacher. Mm-hmm. And he turns the corner and runs smack into us. And I got to introduce my first grade teacher, who I have dyslexia, everyone, as you probably know from my spelling mistakes. She was the one who found that I had dyslexia and helped do the whole thing. Right. I got to introduce her to the future president, which was amazing. Which, for you, I mean, that had to be just mind-blowing when you started to see him on the national level.
Oh, yeah, it was. I, of course, went to when he spoke at the convention in Boston.
Which was amazing.
With John Kerry, and he gave this, hall-rattling speech, basically. And so I followed him and obviously supported him, and got to meet him at different times, and being a national delegate to the conventions, you'd get his Christmas cards
and all the other stuff.
It was sort of like that.
Now, I know you're a progressive because I see you on all the progressive campaigns. Who was your favorite?
Well, I guess it comes pretty close to Kennedy on that level, but I worked for Scott Harshbarger for 16 years. So I worked on his campaign and as a paid staffer in 1982 when he first ran for district attorney.
Right.
He was taking on an incumbent. We worked it very hard. I was doing field all over, and we won by a significant margin. So he asked me to come into the DA's office as Director of Community Education,
Okay.
and I did that for 8 years. Later worked the Democratic Coordinated Campaign when he was running for governor,
Right.
and I worked 8 years in the Attorney General's office as a special assistant to the Attorney General. So he was a favorite. Obviously, I liked Duvall, I liked Michael Dukakis, and a number of others.
But it's always that first campaign.
Sure.
You never seem to recapture it, but at the same time, you're always looking for that again,
Sure.
right? That feeling. You've got an incredible background. If you go to the website bose3.com, you're going to get to see Bob's background. You've been all over the place. For people that are, this is a huge deal for us. We're going to select a new chair. I don't have to say what's been going on in Washington. It's very discouraging for a lot of us. People who are looking for the Democratic male delegate, they're going to be looking for different things. Now, what I always say is you can tell a good candidate by the fact that they can give a 3-minute sales pitch, or less, always less. Of course, Duvall never was able to do a 3-minute sales pitch, but that's kind of unique to him. Give them a pitch. Tell them why they should consider you.
Well, good. First of all, I had the experience. I think I would be a dynamo Democratic National Committee man. The experience comes from some of the things we've talked about. It comes from, being on the state committee, both a caucus elected person, a ballot person, and certainly a 20-year member now. So 28 years of experience on the committee, leading the bylaws committee, which is sort of an unsexy committee, but when you think of it, over the last 20 years or so, all the significant additions and changes to the party have come through us.
Yeah.
So we would decide, okay, we need more affirmative action members, and we would increase the numbers, and I would have sort of a goal in mind,
Right.
and we would push that through there on the committee and get it done.
You were also on the youth committee?
Right, Youth Services Committee was a big one. Obviously, the Executive Committee was overseeing a whole bunch of things. And, I enjoyed bringing people into the party, both on the local level, but certainly on the state committee. So when we established a number of youth seats, I had good candidates running for those seats. And we brought in, people, a Marie St. Fleur who didn't know anything about politics, but went on to be a great state representative. And people like that. And we brought people in, a great black leader down in Brockton, and we brought people from South Boston and, Natick and all over into the party. So that was good. But, beyond the experience, it's just the party is at a crossroads, and the party obviously has to make some significant changes.
Right.
We have to not only choose a chair that's going to be crucial in the decision, but we have to have someone that can really push the party to a 50-state strategy. We need to get back to working every single precinct in the United States.
Right.
We have to establish precinct captains. We have to make sure that we're not missing out any rural areas. We, obviously saw that we weren't organized as well in Wisconsin as we thought we should be,
Which
or
was
Michigan.
mind-blowing.
Right.
Mind-blowing.
And, so we have to push the party to make sure that we're working in every single area, that we have to probably raise the money, too, for state directors and things like that. But these precinct captains are going to help shape the party. I have the knowledge. I have the commitment. I'm a family person.
Passionate Democrat.
And certainly a passionate Democrat. That, it's good to have both the passion as well as the experience. And, you're going to be meeting with people from all over the United States. We're going to be going down to Atlanta, actually, whoever is elected, Democratic National Committee man, and we're going to meet with all the candidates that are running.
Right.
And we're going to talk with Ray Buckley from New Hampshire and Congressman Ellison from Minnesota and Harrison, the party chair from South Carolina and anyone else that gets in. And, we have to, ask them the right questions. We have to listen, as always. And as I've gone about this process to be Democratic National Committee man, I've made over 600 calls already. I really take it seriously.
Yeah, you're not fooling around.
I have had days where I have called from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 o'clock, almost straight. And some of them are long conversations.
Right.
So that has been a good listening experience, because I've had people that have quizzed me for up to 40 minutes, which is cool.
Democrats like to talk.
Yeah.
What are the 3 things you think the National Committee needs to do?
Well, I think one has to make sure that they get a chair that is dynamic, that is inclusive, and that knows how to take this strategy that we have to implement.
So number 1 is the chair.
Is the chair. 2 is certainly what I touched on, is that 50-state strategy. We need to say, okay, in Nebraska and in Alabama and Louisiana, we know where our precinct captains are. We know who they are. We are giving them the right message, and so forth. So that is very important. And 3 is really developing that message and making sure it gets out. We saw the great wealth of people speaking, for Hillary Clinton at the end. We have to get people like Michelle Obama and, President Obama out talking with people in different places. We have to get Bernie Sanders going to all those campuses. And, that 50-state strategy means in certain precincts, they're college precincts. So we have to really have college leaders that are helping out, and we have to make sure that the young people in this country are hearing the Democratic message and, basically joining the party or voting for the party. And also that goes over, you would develop certain leaders in every constituency.
Right.
So we need
So you're talking that you not only need precinct captains, you need basically gender captains, gender identity.
Sure. So you would have some people that maybe are really getting the word out on women's issues. You would have clearly environmental people, leader, and we have to work the unions like we've never worked with them. I've talked to Steve Tolman recently in this race, the AFL-CIO president, and we have to make sure that labor is working hand in glove with the Democratic Party. We can't lose all these. Sometimes people call him Joe Sixpack, but it could be a regular union guy that just does his thing, tries to make sure his family is surviving.
Food on the table.
Yeah, and we have to get to those people. We have to have a message that resonates with them, but we have to do that by being organized and.
Okay, so 3 things basically are: number 1, we need a dynamic chair that's going to turn this whole thing around for us. You want to see that chair implement a 50-state strategy. And then you want a lot of force and effort around the message development.
Right, correct.
Basically making sure that we go into every demographic. You basically are taking over Gus Bickford's chair. He's now the chair. You're taking over his seat. So you're going to have a full term to go through, as you've got at least, we had almost 3 years. What would you say is the one thing that you want to accomplish as the Massachusetts male delegate?
Well, I want to be someone that's dynamic, that's out there, that's talking to people not only from Massachusetts, but from New Hampshire and Iowa and Michigan and Oregon. And I want to, try to be someone that really says, okay, I'm going to be laser focused on making sure that we are developing the organization. We have to take back the House and Senate in 2018, along with locally the governorship. And we have to be ready to take back the presidency in 2020. And to do that, we have to out-organize the other side. We have to, just get our message honed. And I want to be part of that combined effort to bring the party to the organization levels that have never been seen, as well as the dynamic message.
So you want to basically, your goal would be see the party be more inclusive.
Sure.
With a stronger grassroots organization.
Yeah.
You're really a great candidate. We really have some amazing candidates here for open seat. How do people find it? What can they do to help you, and how do they find out?
Right. People can call me or email me.
You're on Facebook, so you can look at Bob.
Right. He's Robert Colt. It's under.
He's got it under Robert. It's not Bob.
Yeah, and my email is actually politicalguywin.
I saw that
at Comcast.net. And I've had it for many, many years. It's just so anyway. I want people to call me. I want them to return my calls so we can talk more. And I'd love people to commit to me after they hear me and hear others.
Right.
Everyone has their little bit. I feel I have the most experience on the committee. I
Right.
feel that I have worked in state government with the district attorney and the attorney general. I'm a family guy, but I've not only lived in Winchester where we're at now, but I grew up in Worcester and Holden.
Okay.
I knew small towns from Holden, graduated from Wachusett Regional, came to BU, lived in Boston, moved to Cambridge, moved to Somerville, moved to Medford, moved to Winchester. So
You've got everything covered.
So I've had good experience on it geographically. I know that there's a part of the state that's beyond 495 because I've lived that, and people from Western Mass love to hear that when I talk about that. So I'd love people to call me, support me. I've got a good cross-section of folks that are already with me, and the more the merrier.
So just because we don't want to give out the information on the live broadcast, I'll make sure that we have a link with all your contact information on the website, bose3.com. What we're going to do also, Bob has given us a great resume. I mean, it's basically a resume, bulleted points that you can find there. You'll also be able to, if you have people that are state committee members, I'm going to put this video up so that you can share it with them. But Bob, you're a great candidate.
Good, I appreciate it. It's been my honor, and to have someone come up into my living room and have a great talk is a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So once again, it's John Bose and Bob Colt. He is running for a open seat for the exciting and fun-filled Democratic National Committee. Our vote is in January?
It actually will be February 2nd.
February 2nd. They moved it back a little bit. So the people who can vote in that actual election are members of your state committee. So please look them up on the Massachusetts Democratic website if you've liked what you see, and put in a pitch for Bob. If you are a state committee member, I've got got 3 more of these lined up. So if you go to bose3.com, you'll be able to see the other interviews. And Bob is asking for your vote, so please consider him. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. Do you want to say goodbye?
Thank you very much. I hope everyone has a grand holiday. We throw a New Year's Eve party, so just stop in here and
come on by.
Yeah, I'd love to talk with you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. We'll catch you at the next interview.